evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, December 16th Ordinance Committee meeting. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Counselor Ash. Counselor Kane.
Present.
Counselor Campbell.
Present.
Counselor Devine. Counselor DeBona.
Present.
Counselor Harris.
Present.
Counselor McCarthy.
Present.
Counselor Minton.
Present.
Chair Leanne.
Present.
8 members, you have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Fantastic. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. This evening on the Ordinance Committee meeting, Ordinance meeting agenda is 2024-139, Order Homer Petition, Corey Hills extension of existing lease. And Mr. Walker, we'll start with you.
Through you, Madam Chairwoman, thank you very much. Before you tonight are a number of additional substantive changes to the lease extension. I will talk briefly on those and turn it over to City Solicitor Jim Timmons, who will provide a little bit of clarity on some of the additional issues that were raised during last week's deliberation. So the changes, as I mentioned, that we've agreed upon with the private partner are substantive, and they're due to a lot of hard work by a number of people around this well over the last week. Certainly from the mayor's perspective, appreciate everyone's feedback, everyone's input, the questions. We're all very focused, and truly I think we're going to have what is a better document than what we started with as a result of this process. I point the council to the changes. First, we have in section 10F, there's new language that will strengthen the auditing and reporting requirements, and this gets to the issue that Jim Powers raised last week relative to taking a look at cost allocation analysis at certain periods of time. That was the recommendation from Mr. Powers, and that's now embedded in the lease extension. Section 16A, mortgages and assignments. That language is changed to allow for the lease to be mortgaged or assigned as security, but does not eliminates the ability that existed previously for the lease to be transferred in its entirety. Section 20A, the new language strengthens the insurance review provisions that were in the lease extension. It was a suggestion made by a number of members of this body. There is one additional change that we've discussed just today through Mr. Bina, who's in the audience with us today, just to clarify the language relative to the Lions Turning Mill property. There was a specific cutout for a specific size of property, but what we're going to do is have the land surveyed and between the parties agree to what is the Lions Mill historic property and take that portion out of the lease. So that language here has changed to reflect that the actual bounds of the Lions Turning Mill property will be discussed at a future date, but that there's general agreement that that property, as from the beginning, will be turned over to the city. Lastly, and probably most substantively, in section 22, remove in its entirety the option to sell the property. This was a tough one. We believe, the mayor believes very strongly that this is the right way to go. But in an effort to make the council, a number of councils more comfortable with the lease extension, the mayor agreed to withdraw that provision from the lease extension. It does not preclude the administration from coming back before this body, as we would have had to, even while it was included in the lease, to go through a process that sort of takes that piece of property out of the mix here, but when it's ready and perhaps a little bit more fully baked, whatever plan is proposed, it will be in front of this body on its own merits alone, and we can handle that at that time as its own subject matter. And that was something that a number of councils had raised. Not, saying yea or nay, whether we should sell the property or not, but just the level of comfort that take it out as part of this process, but leave open the possibility that through a substantive public process, we could still do that. Those are the changes as they exist in front of you this evening. You have both a red line version and a clean version. With that, I would turn it over with the chairwoman's indulgence, Solicitor Timmons, to walk through some of the items that were raised last Monday evening as well. Thank you.
I'll just briefly review what I was saying as an introduction. I'm going to deal with some broader and more conceptual thoughts just to help set your minds at ease and then the minds of the public after hearing what was portrayed last night by those who oppose what we're looking to do here with this legislation. It was interesting to hear what some people were saying about this, and I thought that providing a very quick history of what went on as far as this lease would be helpful to you and to the public. The first lease was entered into in 1997 when the city developed, through relationships with state officials, the ability to get slurry from the Big Dig and use it to fill what was then a dump site. At the time that occurred, the city was facing a fine schedule from federal regulators, and either state or federal, regarding the condition of our landfill. So that prompted some activity trying to come up with a solution, and it dovetailed well with what was going on in town where they were trying to get rid of fill. Now, at the time, the mayor who was involved in that project was Mayor Jim Sheets. He was the first mayor to participate in what is now the beautiful facility we have up on the hill. This is not something that Tom Koch and Peter O'Connell came up with while waiting in line at Balducci's one night, like someone portrayed last week, talking about the insider activities. This was Mayor Sheets dealing with state officials to acquire the slurry, and then working on finding someone who would do the hard work of filling that site and developing the golf course. And O'Connell management, Peter O'Connell and his brother William, came forward at that time in '97 and oversaw the filling of that site. Now that continued up until roughly 2004, when Mayor Bill Phelan was in office. Mayor Bill Phelan is the second mayor to have a hand in what has been developed up at the Granite League site. So that's 2 mayors before Mayor Koch. Mayor Phelan engaged in what Peter O'Connell once told me during a little side discussion, and I'm not disclosing anything I shouldn't here. Peter O'Connell told me it was one of the most difficult negotiations he had ever been through. And I think those of you who know of Mayor Phelan's reputation, I know of his reputation then and his reputation now, is he's very tough when you're working with him, and he's very detail-oriented. And he was both in 2004. And there was a lease, and for those who were talking last week about having attorneys with more marquee value than this local attorney, Mayor Phelan brought in counsel from Foley Hoag, a Boston law firm, and they did the commercial lease, which was signed in December. I said '04, it was '02. I'm mistaken. That's this lease. This is the lease that has been in place relative to the site, subject to amendments that began occurring when Mayor Tom Koch came into office. Mayor Koch is the third of 3 mayors to work on this project. He's not the only one. He was working for the city at all times when this project was coming online, which is why he was so familiar with everything up there. He was present in '97 with Mayor Sheets. He was present working with Mayor Phelan. He was part of the group that worked on the the fields and that component of the lease. In '02, what was going on was the development of the golf course had stalled out. They had completed the fill and some of the rough design, but the golf course was not progressing at a pace that Mayor Phelan was satisfied with. So that resulted in this 2002 lease, which is very comprehensive. As I said, there was the work of some lawyers from a law firm in town who worked on this. Marina Bay Management had their counsel on it. And the agreement that has existed since 2002 in its essential form is what we have recently made modifications to and presented to all of you. What I'd like to review is the fact that much of this is very similar. In '02, large segments of this lease related to the development and to the continued assignment of obligations on the part of Marina Bay. The second amended and restated lease before you this evening is the result of Marina Bay Management and at this point in time, Tom and Peter O'Connell have been coming forward to the city with plans. They've had certain concepts in mind, and you've seen, anyone who's been up there has seen. I don't know that everyone who spoke last Monday has seen it, but someone spoke about an opportunity for a transformative experience or whatever, and I was sitting off to the side and I thought, well, I think you're 25 years too late on that one, because we have watched this through various iterations, this site develop. And you know, the driving range and some of the other things that have come online. That's what this second amended and restated lease is about. But also, it's an opportunity, it's a document that allows for the future plans and future thoughts to also carry forth. So that's what this lease is about. It's not some hurried agreement with developers looking to line their pockets. This is something that's the very careful byproduct of work between the mayor, who spent the last 8 or 9 months, Mr. Walker, and it might be more than that. You only roped me in after about 8 or 9 months ago, after some progress. But, and members of the development team, they've been at City Hall presenting different options. There have been discussions. The mayor's told them what he'd like to see, what he thinks would be productive going on up there. And the folks from O'Connell, I'll use that generic term, have talked about what they foresee as being possible up there. And during the course of all this, what has happened, and nothing more, is the lease that was devised in 2002 was refined. So this didn't just fall out of the sky. It's not a lease that was given to us by the developer's lawyer. This is a refinement of the lease that was very carefully crafted in '02, but we've taken out large sections of it. By way of example, as I mentioned, the motivating factor at the time in '02 was Mayor Phelan was not satisfied with the rate of progress. So he brought the O'Connell folks in and said, look, we got to get this thing moving. And they came up with some back and forth, some give and take, and that's what this '02 lease is. And by way of example, one of the things that went on in '02 was the money was starting to dry up on the O'Connell camp. And respectfully, that's after, I don't know, tens of millions, if not more. So there's a provision in this '02 lease that says the city put the lessees, the developers, on the clock. Go out and get the financing you need to finish this project, to do the fields, and we'll assist you. There's a specific provision in this lease. That's been taken out because we've altered how we're doing things, and we have a more conventional mortgage lease in the lease before you. And just so people understand, Furnace Brook Golf Course, which just recently turned over to the city, about 3 or 4 years before they turned it over, I checked the title, and they had a mortgage on the property. They financed the property in order to redo the parking lot and do some other things. Well, because the lease was going to expire and the city was going to take over, they had to address that mortgage, and they did. Any responsible lender who lends to someone on what's called a leasehold interest, the lessees, the developers, are only going to be able to obtain a loan that matches the term of their lease. A bank's not going to let them go beyond that because they don't own the property. However, a bank will provide funding to a lessee so that that lessee can do something along the lines of what is being proposed here, which is further development of the site. So that's kind of an overarching overview of what's gone on. And I hope you understand and accept, and I'm happy to handle questions when I finish, but that this lease that we have before you today is not some willy-nilly production. It's a further refinement of a negotiated lease in 2002, and we all know what the product of that lease is. Recall what was up on the hill in 2002, and take a ride up and look at it today. That's what the 2002 lease was about. That's what we have refined. So, Mayor Koch has certain visions, and I have often said to people, when the track was built, there was opposition to it. Some by elected officials, some by the public, similar opposition to what we're experiencing today. But after the track was built and everyone could see it and everyone could understand it better, I noticed different reaction toward me about the track site. It's still there today. It hasn't sunk into the ground. No one's been hurt there. It's a productive part of the community. Well, that's what's going on up here. Someone mentioned the Hancock Adams. I think it might have been Mr. President, something about the Hancock Adams Common. Our downtown, which used to be the way that folks from Situate and Cohasset got home, 4 lanes, couldn't move around at 5 o'clock. It's now a town common. Well, the mayor has similar visions, as do the O'Connells and their team. The O'Connells are not local yokels like someone implied last week too. That was quite interesting to hear. They've done development work, Newport Ave Extension, Marina Bay, the golf course, the tallest building in our downtown. That's all Peter O'Connell and his team, his family, his team. The diversity of that work, the vision attendant to that work. Peter O'Connell built this, I guess it's 15 stories, 18 stories building in the heart of the pandemic. It came online in 2020. I remember being there, I met him there out front over something with a street sign. And I said to him, how do you do this? Have the fortitude to continue through a pandemic and bring this online. Well, he wanted to have the tallest building to bring others into the downtown, and that is happening. That's what Mayor Koch's been doing. He's been bringing people into the city to do all, and he credits them, all the work that's going on. So that's what this lease is about. Now I want to explain, I'm just going to go over a couple of issues because I'm very comfortable with the lease, and I've been reviewing it for months. There's been back and forth, but I'll tell you a couple of things that just you should know. One of the things that came up during the presentation last Monday was that there's a list of 27 expenses for the clubhouse facility, the restaurant. It's Exhibit D to the lease. Well, Exhibit 4 to the 2002 lease has a list of exactly 27 expenses. We copied it exactly and carried it forward in this particular lease. And the reason we did that is because these expenses are recognized in the restaurant industry as being typical expenses for the operation of the type of facility that's up there. They were put in the 2002 lease. I don't know exactly who did it, but I know that this is industry standard stuff adopted in our lease and criticized on Monday. And I'll call that criticism inaccurate. Another criticism that I found particularly bothersome, because I was sitting over there feeling like I was Barney Fife. You know, how could this have happened? But the lease, our lease, doesn't have penalty provisions if they don't take care of the parks and if they don't do something else. I know that Councilor Ash was talking to us last week because that was particularly concerning and it resonated with him. How can we demand of them that they do something but not hold them accountable with penalty provisions? And the thought was maybe we'll add at the end of the construction of the playing fields or the maintenance of the playing fields. And do you recall what the second one was? Okay. The request was, or the thought was, that we should be putting specific penalty provisions in the lease. Well, there's a Latin term that I have been reciting, and to the open mockery of Mr. Walker, expressio unius est exclusio alterius. And what that means is, it's a reason why lawyers get to charge more than they probably should. We cloak stuff in Latin. But what that term means is that the expression of one thing is the exclusion of the other. So if you put a penalty provision in one or two sections of the lease, and then there's something that's breached on page 27 where you didn't happen to put a penalty provision, the attorneys for the lessee are going to say, no, we negotiated penalties. They're in those two sections and that's it. We don't get penalized for anything else. And that would be an argument that would have legs in a court of law. This Latin provision applies to legislation, how it's interpreted, and also contracts, how they're interpreted. Now, the proponent of the penalty provision issues had just simply not properly read the lease, which I understand because that person indicated this was not a specialty or anything. The lease on page 12 in section 18B, this is where any lawyer who does lease work, contract work, this is how you handle a remedy for default. In our lease, in section B, it says, in the event the lease is terminated under any of the provisions in this section, or shall be otherwise terminated for breach of any obligation. So if the lessee fails to do anything, if they breach any obligation in this lease, then the lease is voided and the lessee has to pay as compensation the total rent reserve for the balance of the lease. Now, the exact same language is in the 2002 lease. It's a nuclear option. It's not a, well, you didn't do the baseball field, so we're going to fine you $300 a week or something. This is a serious commercial lease with serious parties participating, and this is a standard provision in leases of that nature. It's like, we're not going to screw around, pardon my vernacular there, but we're not going to spend time going back and forth with you because something happened at the baseball field. We're just going to go boom. And for that reason, the lessee, in addition to their good faith, is going to address things. Now, there were times earlier in the history of the lease where there were problems up at the ball fields, and it took a while to work through it all. But I think for the most part, people, although I've heard new concerns, but those types of things will be addressed, and the ability to do so is in the lease. And while the lease, as was indicated last Monday, while a lease should protect both sides, and we're worried about protecting the city, the taxpayers, et cetera, we also have to come into this relationship fairly. These are our partners up there. While they're a lessee, anytime the mayor calls them in and they talk about things, most of what's done is done cooperatively. So as everyone here knows, there's a huge investment going on up there. The golf course is doing very well. And by the way, there were some, I'm going to briefly address a couple of things about open space. One of the interesting issues is when I was looking into this, frankly, I didn't know this, but I checked whether or how Article 97, which I generally relate to parks and whatnot, how it relates to golf courses. And I found out that golf courses and cemeteries are treated differently as open space. So while I didn't go too far into it, and I don't think there's a need to go too far into it at this point, but there is a very serious question about how a golf course would be treated under Article 97. The fact of the matter is we're going to go to the legislature, hopefully with the city council support, and once the city council approves special legislation, that addresses all those sorts of issues.
Mr. Solicitor, I apologize. It's 7 o'clock, and so I do have to turn it over to Mr. President to formally start the council
Understood.
meeting, and then we can come back into
Thank
committee. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to the Monday, December 16th, 2024 City Council meeting at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Ash. Councilor Campbell. Present. Councilor Devine.
Present.
Councilor DeBona.
Present.
Councilor Harris. Councilor Liang.
Present.
Councilor McCarthy.
Present.
Councilor Minton.
Present.
President Kane.
Present.
9 members.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Please stand with me for a moment of silence. Please use this moment as you will. Please turn to the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please read the open meeting law.
Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible.
Thank you. We will recess this meeting, go back into ordinance, and we'll be back soon.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to just reconvene the Ordinance Committee meeting at 7:02 p.m. Mr. Solicitor, please.
things will probably now go horribly awry because I've got to figure out how to do this. But the next issue I wanted to talk about just briefly, because it's been taken off the lease, as Mr. Walker stated. But I wanted to talk to you about the 12 acres of open space that was being proposed for the hotel development. As you look up at the screen, the parking lot is clearly depicted. In the upper right side, you can see the roof of the golf course facility. And this entire hill that you see to the right of the parking lot is the bulk of the 12 acres. The topography, this is a topographic map, and how do I get to the, thank you. This is a topographic map, and what that means is that's a map that lays out what the elevations are. How about one more? Is it going to make it? I'll just stick with I'll stick with that. Okay. We have copies of the topo map, and I believe were paper copies distributed? Okay. And then you folks have them on your screen. They're not as visible for the public. But essentially what you see is you see a very steep hill. That's what would be depicted here if you could see it. But there's a little better picture of it. Now, I guess we'll leave it at that for now. As you come in, the parking lot is at elevation 270, and the roadway, Raschuti Drive, not the road up to the golf course, but the road that's heading off on the lower end of, below the hill. The topography there is roughly 200 to 210. So there's a 50 or 60 foot drop from the top of that area down to the roadway. The area consists of outcropping. You can see the mowing patterns there. What the lessee had to do here was, because every time it rained and the topography of the hill was such that there was massive erosion that was occurring. So they had to, and this area, by the way, is capped landfill. What was going on back in the old landfill days was when you had a drop like this of roughly 70 feet, that was the area you drop trash in, because then as the pile, would rise, it would still not be at, say, the parking lot level. So quarry holes and areas like this were where trash was deposited. So that's an area that was cleaned up, capped, and then on top of the cap went all this vegetation. And the vegetation has to be maintained, because if it's not, that's gonna wash away, and then the erosion will reoccur. So this is a maintained cap area on a trash site that has drops of between 30 and 70 feet. And it gets worse as you get up closer to the clubhouse. Well, this is not usable open space. and it never will be usable open space. And no one would be allowed to go in there because they'd only get themselves injured. So what happened was there was discussion about possibly developing it by putting a hotel into that hill and engineering things and blah, 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 the types of things you do in order to create a structure there. But this is the property that would be coming offline were it to be developed in the future. And it was part of the original proposal. No one even gave it a chance to discuss it publicly, but when it was presented to the city, the mayor saw an opportunity to sell land. There'd be income from that. There'd be real estate taxes paid, because right now there's no real estate taxes paid. The city owns the land. And then there'd be a hotel tax. So it looked like it would be a good deal financially, and it would take land that is never going to be used and make it functional. So that's what that was about. It wasn't about the further, subjugation of proper public interests by taking open space offline. It was a joint effort to make something useful there. And as Mr. Walker said, that may or may not come back, but we've taken it offline here because obviously, it was an issue of concern. So now my goal tonight was simply to hit some highlights, to explain to you the history of what's gone on so you'd understand it, because I know you were put in a bit of a difficult position last week, hearing some of the criticism that was launched. No one's rushing anything. This has all been carefully thought out. We're dovetailing on a coming up on 23-year-old lease now that was very carefully negotiated. And we're trying to continue to act responsibly, both the city and the folks who are operating that tremendous facility up there. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll conclude and take any questions.
Council McCarthy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jim, thanks for coming up and giving us the chronological recap. Years ago, when Mayor Phelan came into office, I got appointed onto that advisory board. Albino was on, Jim Triglia, some of the Raschuti Drive guys, and then a cast of thousands that were up there looking for free golf. Once the number dwindled down and we had the neighbors, and I was up there also helping Councilor Brian Conley at the time. And the point you bring up is a good point, because there's a lot of people that have contacted me that are in the positive view of Quarry Hills. One of the things they asked me is about the advisory committee that we're put together. And I know it was a work in progress, and we're shifting things around to make sure it's correct. But the lease that was in 2002 was, I almost considered it a construction lease. There was talk of finally getting the ball fields and the soccer fields, but the golf course was the main item. But a lot of the items, and Albina and I were talking about it earlier today, were about trucks, noise, hours of operation, smell, how it was going to affect the neighbors in regards to the construction. And that was the kind of the guts of that lease until, the next version came out that kind of narrowed all that out and got down to the operations of what's going on up there right now. You mentioned the ball fields, and those are the best fields that we have in the city for Little League. If we go back and look at, I played on Faxon Field. I didn't play that well, but I played on Faxon Field by the police station, and that was a field. It was just It wasn't a well-kept field. It was just a field that was there, along with Mitchell McCoy, which was one field, and other places that we had. So when this came up and they ended up having a facility for Little League up there, it was just a step up. We never had that. So that was a big plus. Same with the soccer fields. I think Councilor DeBona had mentioned during the public hearing about Therian up by the Elks and Malcolm McNeil down at Cleverly Court and the soccer field that's up there. It was all pluses. It was all extras that came in. So I guess my point that I'm trying to make is that this lease that's there today, I was very familiar with what's going on up in Quarry Hills. And as the ordinance chair, for the last round, the last 2 years before Councilor Liang took over, I was involved going over and over it again to try to get it right. And every time I went up and talked to the folks at Quarry Hills, there was nobody saying no. They were always willing to try to work it out and get it as clear as possible. But it's a unique lease. It's not like we're leasing an apartment or we're leasing a trailer. We're leasing a very unique area that wasn't parkland, that was barren wasteland, that was a dump, that was transformed into, as you said, a state-of-the-art facility today. So I appreciate you going through the items because it is a lot to swallow. And all of us had a lot of questions. Not only folks, sometimes if you don't ask the questions during the public hearing, they think you're not asking any questions at all. But there's so many questions going on between you and Mr. Walker, the mayor, Quarry Hills, et cetera, that we go through. So thank you for the rundown tonight, because I know that when I got on this, it was probably right around 2002, right after Mayor Phelan was elected. It was a construction lease, and a lot of folks had said, well, why was the advisory board, dismantled? Well, it was really there for construction at the beginning. I'm glad it's here now. I think it's a good thing to have, but it is. It's a unique piece of land that Peter O'Connell and Walter Hannon both jumped on, and I don't know how many millions of dollars, as you said, they went through to try to get it done. Finally get it done. They've turned the corner, and now the more money that is made up there, the more money the city gets. It's a good deal. It's a good revenue stream. So I just want to thank you, Jim, for going through that, and it's good to have you up there.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? Okay, Counselor DeBona and then Counselor Harris. Counselor DeBona?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The previous few meetings, I talked a lot about the traffic light, the playing fields, proper trails with the signage. Just dating back to September 8th of 2022, Councilor Palmucci, at the time the Ward 4 councilor, had a community meeting up at Granite Links that I attended because he knew he would be leaving the city council. He says, you're going to have to take this over because we're going to be without a Ward 4 council for a little while. Over the course of that year, the 99-year lease was proposed, and then it was withdrew on September 5th of 2023. Here we are, we come back with a 50-year lease on November 18th. We've deliberated about it over December 9th, and tonight we had public comment, public hearing, which lasted close to 3 hours here with people that were for and people that were against. So we got that all out of the way. Over the course of this past year, I know the Quarry Hills committee, Quarry Hills advisory committee that was outside, had a lot of meetings out here in the public, Thomas Crane Public Library, all these other places. And some of the issues that were discussed were the audits. And your section, you talking, Solicitor Timmons, Section 10F, right to audit and inspect lessees' records. It's modified here as an amendment, basically a provision, refined, whatever word you want to use for this. Lessees shall perform a cost allocation analysis and rebalance as we may agree to with auditors or reviewers during the calendar year 2025, and shall perform periodic allocation analysis every 5 years, therefore, for the term of the lease. This will give us proper oversight and numbers in front of us. So it's going to happen in calendar 2025. Also, I think that's very important is 19A, Quarry Hills Advisory Committee, which will consist of, Ward 4 Counselor, at-large Counselor, Representative Quarry Hills Associates, one representative of Marina Bay, two representatives of Ward 4, three representatives of the city, and Executive Director of Friends of the Blue Hills Charitable Trust. So that Quarry Hills Advisory Committee is going to be our oversight. It's going to be also our city council oversight. We've deliberated about this I think, over the last 2 years. There's been a lot of modifications. You go back to 2002, Councilor McCarthy was part of it. But here we are tonight. It's not something I know Chief of Staff Walker, yourself, myself, this is not something we just put on tonight. This is not something we just put on a couple months ago. We've been deliberating about this since September 8th of 2022. Because I remember being at the Granite Links, going through the proposal, and over the year of deliberating in here, it was withdrew. And there was a lot of concerns with the public. And tonight, and over the last month, I would say 4 weeks, since November 18th, we've had a lot of amendments, a lot of refining and provisions of this lease that will help give us the proper oversight moving forward. I think that's the most important thing, is to have city council oversight, and this advisory committee will help do that. So both sides have to understand that we're trying to come to a mutual or negotiating process to get to where we want to get to. But I've heard and I've fielded a lot of emails, I've fielded a lot of phone calls on both sides. People that are for it, people that are against it, but you have to understand is we have to work together somehow to make sure we have the proper audits and we have the proper oversight moving forward. So I just wanted to lay that out, and I know some people have come to the table real late. They've come to the table a week ago and they're popping emails in there and going, what are you doing rushing this? We've been going through this for 2.5, almost 2+ years, deliberating about this. How are we going to do this right? So, you come to the table late, some of the folks out there. So you come to the table late, you haven't been, really doing your homework and thinking this through and going through these provisions over the last 2 years. It really has been. We have been doing this. So I just wanted to get that out there, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Jim, thank you for your, as Councilor McCarthy had mentioned, your chronological history, going over through the lease. And when you talk about history, you just have to look at, when you mention Marina Bay, the group, what they've done. And you mentioned Marina Bay. Unfortunately, like myself and Mr. McCarthy, we're old enough to probably remember when down in Marina Bay, there was nothing but a tent. It was a dump, basically, by the water. And what it transformed into was a cash cow for the city. And a tremendous cash cow, there's no doubt. The property taxes that are there, and this was all started from a risk that this group is taking here at Granite Links. And what a job they've done taking another dump and turning it into a cash cow. I've heard people criticize, and that's everybody's right, I guess, but you got to look at what was the end result of this. The end result is we have a group that does good stuff to places that have nothing was there at the beginning, right? So I know at this point, I'm proudly going to make a motion to approve this order, this in the Ordinance Committee, if I could. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion to approve by Councilor Harris, and in committee, we don't need a second, but Councilor Campbell, you also wanted to speak. Councilor?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Jim, for your detailed review of this. I think it definitely helps with the crossing of the Ts and the Is and all that, and the whole process. And the way that this has moved along, it's been impressive. I haven't been involved as long, but I do know that this is something that we should be proud of, that we have reviewed it, we've received the wants and the don't wants, and, I think at the end of the day, it's our job to really see what the majority is, and I feel that I'm really supportive of moving this lease extension forward. The reason that I'm supportive is the city has a partner in Quincy, Quarry Hills Associates. It's got a track record of doing right by the city and delivering a beautiful product. I think we need to continue to hold the line on their additional responsibilities that have been outlined in the contract, and I think that this is an opportunity to watch and allow the QHA to grow and compete, to continue with as what I think is one of the best treasures of the city. I feel overall the development of this city, of this land and the manner in which it is being proposed will only benefit the city of Quincy through job creation, tax growth, and continued beautification of the city and becoming a destination for people near and far. Also feel too much emphasis is being placed on the extension of the lease and not enough is being said about the current 32-year lease and what it means to the property. Without extending this lease, I have no doubt QHA will continue to run a quality business and continue to invest in the growth of its product and will always be mindful of its place in Quincy's landscape. With that said, William S. Burroughs, a prominent American postmodern author, is credited with saying, "When you stop growing, you start dying." We cannot put these properties in an exact side-by-side, apples-to-apples example. However, I look at Fenway Park and think of where it was when I was a kid and where it is now. As a kid, it was the greenest, coolest, and best baseball field in existence, and baseball ruled the world. If you went in there without your glove, a team shirt, or a hat, it did not keep your own box score. I'm not even sure you could consider yourself a fan. Because in Boston, for so many years, baseball drove the day. Today, Fenway Park is more of an experience than it is about the game itself. The area is no longer a seasonal destination or a place for college kids to party at. The improvements made in and around the park and the surrounding area have only solidified its place in Boston and the nearby business community. The addition of the restaurants and shopping and MGM Music Hall is the perfect complement to having a sustaining business and benefits all parts of the city in an otherwise seasonal area. They are a destination and drive business throughout the city through concerts and all other opportunities. Where once was a simple ballpark is now Friendly Fenway. In Quincy, where once was a dump, is now Granite Lakes. As a kid from West Quincy, the Quarries was a place to go on Saturdays to grab scrap metal with my dad, and a place where kids from the neighborhood would jump in some dark, dirty, dangerous water. The thought of what it is today, a world-class golf course and clubhouse with the breathtaking views and award-winning dining, it is extraordinary and continues to be the envy of the entire South Shore. Incredulously and begrudgingly, I must admit baseball's popularity has waned over time, even in Boston, partly because of Tom Brady and the success of the Patriots, but the game itself and Major League Baseball needed to make improvements and changes along the way, and because they decided to wait, it negatively affected the game. But thankfully, Fenway Park was ahead of the curve, and the city benefited from it. I believe we are no longer at a crossroads for this city, rather a tipping point, and I believe this is a prime example of what makes this city great. People coming out opposed or in favor of this project and passionately making their case. I've heard you, and I can assure you this isn't a rubber stamp conclusion on my end. In fact, I would say I have asked myself countless questions about my motivations in deciding on this vote. I've cleared my head and opinion and asked the same questions those who are opposed have raised, and I've concluded the good of this project far outweighs the challenges and feel there are countless communities in this area, in this world, who would love to have this facility and the plans put forth by the Quarry Hills Associates in their city. I did ask myself all the questions, and the ones that really stuck out were, what if golf takes a dip in popularity the way that baseball did? What if we limit QHA and their ability to grow by not extending the lease? What if we wait out the current lease and this once crown jewel of South Shore is now tired and not living up to its massive potential? Will we still attract the kind of suitors who can see the potential we see in the investment in the property the way QHA is proposing? Are we willing to take that chance and wait? I'm not. I think that we need to extend this. I believe this lease extension is the right decision for this property, for the city, and what the majority of the citizens of Quincy want. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Ash.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I did write down my thoughts because I wanted to make sure I had everything covered. There's a lot. We've had a lot of meetings. Solicitor Timmons, thank you for the background. I don't have any direct questions, but I think we're discussing the lease as a whole. We've had now the better part of a month formal proceedings, but it's been in the background or forefront of all of our brains in one point or another over the better part of Councilor DeBona stated 2 years. So I'd like to take a second and thank everyone for their participation in the public process and say that I was pleasantly surprised by the public meetings on this city issue. Hope to see more meetings on issues of this caliber in the future. It's very clear many people care about this city and this property and its future. We have a lease proposal brought before the City Council, and I have been pretty transparent that I believe in the idea of a hotel on the property, and also find that the plans complement the current facility and that the added hotel motel tax will give back to the city via a trusted entity and Quarry Hills Associates. I've also listened to the residents and shared in some of the lease concerns or questions, as many of us have. I want folks to know and stress that the lease in front of us is a lot different than the one that was proposed last month. Not, again, as Solicitor Timmons stated, that was negotiated by, I believe he said Mayor Phelan. This is 20 or so years ago, and that I'm sure was executed in good faith. Of course, it's been a couple decades. Folks had questions at the community meeting and also last year and the beginning of this year. So not to be redundant, I want to touch on some of the key edits, as you'll say, as amended over the last month. As Councilor DeBona just noted, the right to audit and inspect lessee's records clause added as a clause to paragraph 10, section F. The lessee shall perform a cost allocation analysis and rebalance during the calendar year 2025, and also perform periodic allocation analyses every 5 years. Paragraph 8, section C, trail access, there is a clause that QHA shall twice annually on or before the first Monday of April and November maintain the trails. And I also, which I know was discussed earlier today, will be submitting the friendly amendment that the parties also agree to review trail access and signage every 5 years, starting in 2030. Both of these clauses and revisions are direct results of the public hearings and commentary. The advisory committee has been redefined and discussed last week, and will now consist of 11 members, 2 city councilors, 1 being the Ward 4 councilor and 1 at large, 3 representatives from varying QHA or Marina Bay management entities, 5 members of the community. And again, this committee redefined after public hearings and commentary. Golf course and service facility fees, as it was never intended to be any different than the first, or I should say the most soonest in time lease. We know now that won't change after looking at both of those documents. The mortgages and assignments were also discussed, and we have defined the playing fields, which, albeit minor, I know I heard at the community meeting, a couple of residents noted or voiced some issues with playing fields and the egresses and ingresses, so that's also defined. And we also discussed that the option to purchase was taken out of the lease. I reiterate this from Solicitor Timmons and my colleagues because I want the public to know that the lease was edited and amended to reflect their comments throughout the process. I hope everyone feels that their voice was heard. I know that's been my goal, as well as my colleagues, as well as the solicitor's office, the mayor's office, the chief of staff. And I look forward to the next iteration of the property by QHA, and I hope that the parties all feel proud to be a part of this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Minton.
Thank you. I'll be brief. A lot of the comments made tonight by my fellow councilors are very supportive of the program and the plan, and the issues that came up constantly when I talked to the public with the trails, with the fields. I talked to Mr. Hannon, and we talked about the trail, and I agree with Councilor Ash with the penalties. I think that's going to help keep the trails straight and the fields clean. Sometimes you need an incentive to do these things. It's a sad commentary that the fields and the trails were kept in such poor condition, but I think now that we've talked, that they'll be all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors wishing to speak? Counselor McCarthy, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. Just a couple of items in the lease. First, I just want to comment about the Lions Turning Mill, the exclusion. Spoke with Quarry Hills today and met with Al and Rob Beener a little bit. There's some language that they have to work out. Both are going to get together and work it out. It's minor language, but it's very important because of the historic value of the Turning Mill. And so I have some documentation, and I'll probably get it to you, Mr. Walker, and work with Quarry Hills, if that's okay. With the Beaners, I'm very familiar with the family. The second thing is that advisory board. One of the things I thought, and Al and Rob talked about is, and I know we have a small army on that advisory board, but there should be somebody representing the Lions Turning Mill for the Quincy Quarries Group on that piece of exclusion to have on that advisory committee if something comes up and it ends up involving that area, because I know that they use the active quarry for water, for pumping, et cetera, around there. So there's some peripheral things that are around their area that I know that they'll deal with. So I'd like to, if I could, add someone from Quincy Quarry Historical Board or Quarries, possibly Albina or a representative, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Do you want to put that in a form of an amendment, or is it something?
Yeah, well, if we want to put an amendment to Mr. Harris's motion, as an amendment to add Quincy Quarry Historical Board, a board member of Quincy Quarry to the advisory committee.
Member of the Quincy Quarry Historical Board to the advisory committee, correct? Is that the language?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Do we have a second on that amendment?
Second.
Thank you, Counselor DeBona. Any questions or comments on the amendment that's being proposed? Okay. I apologize. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do we need a roll call for the amendment?
We can do a roll call. You can do all in favor.
Okay, let's do a roll call, please, if we could. So
Counselor
this is on the
Ash.
amendment, please.
Counselor Ash. Counselor Kane.
Yes.
Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor DeBona.
Yes.
Counselor Harris. Yes. Counselor McCarthy.
Yes.
Counselor Minton. Chairman Liang.
Yes.
8 members.
Thank you. I apologize. I actually should have asked Counselor Harris, since you made the motion, if you would accept that friendly amendment. I apologize. I skipped that step, and so let me reverse for a second. Okay, thank you. So thank you for accepting the friendly amendment. We now voted on it, so the amendment has passed, and so now the motion to approve is on the amended language now, correct? Great, okay. Is that all, Counselor?
That's all.
Great, okay.
Sorry,
just Counselor Ash, and then I'll come back to you, Counselor.
I'm just going to say,
Sure, I'm just going to go to Counselor Ash because he raised his hand first, if that's all right, and I'll come back to you. Thank you. Counselor Ash?
but it's point of order that he needs to make a motion as amended.
Okay, I'll get to that.
That's all. Just this formal. Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I similarly have a friendly amendment, and that is to paragraph 8, section D, for the last sentence, as discussed earlier today, to read, "The parties shall review the trail access and signage needs every 5 years by or before the close of business on December 31st, commencing in the year 2030.
Because you'd like to make another friendly
Another amendment.
Correct, okay. So again, Counselor Harris, would you accept this friendly amendment?
I'd like to hear it again.
Sure.
Okay, please, Counselor
Sure.
Ash.
This is with respect to Section 8, Paragraph D, which is titled Trail Access and Signage. So the last sentence in this section will read, "The parties shall review the trail access and signage needs every 5 years by or before the close of business on December 31st, commencing in the year 2030.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to make a second amendment. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilor McCarthy, and can we do a roll call, please, for that?
Counselor Ash.
Yes.
Counselor Kane.
Yes.
Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor DeBona.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy.
Yes.
Counselor Minton.
Yes.
Chair Leon.
Yes.
8 yeas.
Okay, that second amendment passes. Is that all, Counselor Ash?
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor DeBona?
No, I was just for formality, to make sure that Counselor Harris makes the motion as amended.
Sure.
Just, that's all. So we don't have any, who knows what's out there. Never mind.
Sure. Thanks, Counselor. Any other questions on the now amended document that's in front of us? Okay, Counselor Harris, are you comfortable making, yep, go into that right now. Thank you. Are you comfortable making another motion?
Make a motion to approve with the amendments that were put forward,
Great.
that were passed.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay, and again, in committee, we don't need a second. Any questions, again, any comments on this amended language? There is a motion on the floor to pass it. No? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. That's the only item on the ordinance meeting tonight, so we'll adjourn the ordinance meeting at 6:39 PM.
Welcome back to the council meeting. Madam Clerk, first item on the agenda, please.
Number 1, 2024-126, an appropriation for $108,712,832 for the new Squantum Elementary School project.
Thank you. President recognizes Mr. Walker.
Through you, Mr. President, thank you very much. Following up on the original presentation of the Squantum Elementary School project, this will be the last, hopefully, in a number of votes this body has taken on this extraordinary project. The body has in front of it the detailed budget and the renderings, and we are thrilled to hopefully get going on this absolutely vital project in a very, very short order. The work is already sort of happening out there. In case anybody has any questions, we don't have any further formal presentations for the body. You do have the financial analysis from Mr. Mason. Mr. Mason and Mr. Kocher are here this evening from the Municipal Finance Department. We have Mr. Hines, Commissioner Hines, Brian LaRoche, the team from PC360, Joe Shea from Grand City Partners. The full project team is here if anyone has any questions. But other than that, we'll leave it to the body. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any questions? President recognizes Councilor Harris.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to thank all of what point we're at right now with this. I want to thank, obviously, the administration. Thank Mayor Koch, especially, my previous councilors that served when this first started, some 8+ years ago, and now in this group here, who is going to see the final, push for this project to, which it is coming to fruition, which is great. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the $108,712,832 for the new Squantum Elementary School project.
Thank you, Councilor Harris. There's a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilor McCarthy. On the motion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Ash. Yes. Counselor Campbell. Yes. Counselor Devine. Yes. Counselor DeBona?
Yes.
Counselor Harris? Yes. Counselor Liang? Yes. Counselor McCarthy?
Yes.
Counselor Minton?
Yes.
President Kane?
Yes.
9 members, excuse me.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Number 2, 2024-127, an appropriation for $4,500,000 for Squantum Elementary School area electrical and communication improvements.
President recognizes Councilor Harris.
Thank you. So again, at this point, we've already discussed this, and we saw presentations, what we're doing with the electrical and the communications improvement there, which is well needed in that location. So I'd like to make a motion to approve for $4,500,000 for the Squantum Elementary School electrical and communications improvements.
Motion to approve made by Councilor Harris. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilor Campbell. On the motion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Ash?
Yes.
Counselor Campbell? Yes. Counselor Devine?
Yes.
Counselor DeBona?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Counselor Liang? Yes. Counselor McCarthy?
Yes.
Counselor Minton?
Yes.
President Kane?
Yes.
9 members.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Number 3, 2024-157, order municipal broadband project, use of Chapter 149A, construction manager at risk, delivery method.
Say something up next one. Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. This is more great advancements that we've been making on behalf of this municipal broadband project that we've been working on for just about 7 years now. And this is a rule, an order that would authorize the use of what's called Chapter 149A in construction manager at risk delivery method for delivering this this project. So allowing us to actually go forward with a design build bid that we can have people bid to do the work that we have discussed in the pilot projects. Anything from President recognize Mr. Walker.
Through you, Mr. President, just quickly, obviously, thank you for your continued work on this together with the administration. Just a quick note that adoption of this rule is the same process that we go through when we do our school projects. We do all of our school projects through this chapter of state law, and the team believes that this is the appropriate way to go forward with this municipal broadband project.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Would entertain a motion to approve made by Councilor Liang, seconded by Councilor McCarthy. On the motion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Ash? Yes. Counselor Campbell? Yes. Counselor Devine? Yes. Counselor DeBona?
Yes.
Counselor Harris? Yes. Counselor Liang? Yes. Counselor McCarthy?
Yes.
Counselor Minton?
Yes.
President Kane?
Yes.
9 members.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Number 4, 2024-158, order home rule petition, establishment of revenue bond for municipal broadband.
Okay, another administrative item. So we're used to issuing general obligation bonds. We have to get permission to issue revenue bonds, which would govern the municipal broadband project once it's up and running in order to finance the project. So I'm hoping that my colleagues will support this measure tonight. Motion to approve made by Councilor Liang, seconded by Councilor Campbell. On the motion, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Ash? Yes. Counselor Campbell? Yes. Counselor Devine? Yes. Counselor DeBona?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Counselor Liang? Yes. Counselor McCarthy?
Yes.
Counselor Minton? Yes. President Kane? 9 members.
Yes, thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Number 5, 2024-159, an order nomination and election of the city auditor for a 3-year term.
President recognizes Councilor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. President. This lady who sits next to me, Sue O'Connor, has been the city auditor for the past 14 years, and I've had the privilege of being the chair of the Finance Committee for 4 out of the 6 years that I've been here, and it's been a pleasure. Sue O'Connor is proactive. I know she answers all your emails. If you want to spend time, come into the office, she'll have whatever you need to answer our questions on municipal financing. I bother her a lot, but she lets me coming back, you let me in, so, you know, I'm doing something right. but I'd like to make a motion to nominate Sue O'Connor for a 3-year term of city auditor.
Okay, motion to approve made by Councilor McCarthy. Do I have a second? Made by Councilor Liang. President recognizes Councilor Liang.
As high as my seat will go, Madam Auditor. It's such an honor to have this opportunity to second this nomination. I think, not only are you an incredible asset really to the entire city and municipal government here, right, but to anybody who's sat in these seats, not just us and not just in the last 10 years that I've been up here, but really anybody who's been up here. You've always, like Councilor McCarthy said, answered our calls, answered our emails, answered the random office drop-bys where, I plop down and can sit with you for hours and talk about budget stuff, and you just work with me, right, on whatever issues in front of us. And I think folks should know that you're not just a huge supporter professionally, but also personally, right? You take such an interest and such a kindness, I think, to each of us in making sure that we're always in a good headspace, right, and have everything we need, and you follow up with us. And I don't know if folks know, but you're also super kind and loving to animals too. I don't know if folks know, but Madam Auditor is an avid foster mom to so many, I think dogs and cats, right, who are in need both stateside and internationally. And that's like a deep passion of hers. She's incredible. So if anybody knows anybody who would like to work with her, again, she's an incredible foster mom. I think it speaks to what an incredible, warm human you are. So I love you. I'm honored to do this. And thank you, Mr. President.
President recognizes Councilor DeBona.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say, Susan, it's been a pleasure first getting elected here in 2015 and spending the last 9 years up here. They put me over there for 3 months before the COVID outbreak, and I chose to come back on this side so I could sit closer to you, just to go through the auditing process and get some numbers from you, and I want to thank you for all those times. Also, as the council president in 2022 and 2023, this last term, just coming into the office, and you along with the entire office, just want to thank you for everything you've done, and you've done a great job. So happy to support you tonight, and looking forward to the next 3 years. Thank you.
Okay, well, I know that McCarthy's got the best seat in the House because Susan knows everything. And I used to joke that she was my favorite colleague on the city council since my time here, since 2016, because she is a font of knowledge, knows where every cent goes and comes in. And that's useful when deliberating and making decisions. So I always miss sitting next to Susan because she became a good friend in the process of being on the council, being finance chair. And so I'm excited to work with you at least for the next year, and we'll see about the 2 after that. All right. So, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes. Councilor Campbell. Yes. Councilor Devine. Yes. Councilor DeBona.
Yes.
Councilor Harris. Yes. Councilor Liang. Yes. Councilor McCarthy.
Yes.
Councilor Minton. Yes. President Kane.
Yes.
9 members. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Number 6, 2024-160, a gift for $500 from Manit Contracting
Motion to
LLC
approve,
to Dare.
made by Councilor DeBona, seconded by Councilor McCarthy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Ash. Yes. Councilor Campbell. Yes. Councilor Devine.
Yes.
Councilor DeBona.
Yes.
Councilor Harris. Yes. Councilor Liang. Yes. Councilor McCarthy.
Yes.
Councilor Minton. Yes. President Kane.
Yes.
9 members.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, that concludes our regularly scheduled agenda items. Approval of previous meeting minutes from December 2nd. Motion approved by Councilor DeBona, seconded by Councilor McCarthy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Communications and reports from the mayor, other city officers, and city boards. Madam Clerk.
I do have one traffic request to refer to Ordinance Committee for Advertising, Ward 2, Councilor Ash at handicap parking at 26 Plymouth Street.
Okay, thank you. Unfinished business and proceeding meeting. Seeing none. Reports of committees. President recognizes Chair Liang.
Thank you. I have 2 items coming out of committee this evening. The first is 2024-139, order homeowner petition, Quarry Hills extension of existing lease. There was a positive recommendation out of committee.
Positive recommendation. Motion approved made by Councilor Liang, seconded by Councilor McCarthy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Ash. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Devine.
Yes.
Counselor DeBona.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor Liang.
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy.
Yes.
Counselor Minton.
Yes.
President Kane.
Yes.
9 members.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I could actually just strike that vote. We have someone who made a vote who needs to abstain from the vote, and so I don't know
I
procedurally.
can
if-
call it again.
We're just having a lot of fun out of my committee tonight. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
Madam
know if we
Clerk,
can
please,
recall that vote, please.
Eliminate that vote from the roll.
Mm-hmm.
We will introduce the order once again.
Yes, so
Madam Clerk,
2024
or
dash one,
Madam
sorry, there's a
Chair.
few out of my committee. So it's 2024-139, order home rule petition, Corey Hills extension of existing lease. Again, there's a positive recommendation out of committee.
Okay, positive recommendation made out of committee. Motion to approve made by Councilor Lang, seconded by Councilor McCarthy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Ash. Yes. Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor Devine. Counselor DeBona.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor Liang.
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy.
Yes.
Counselor Minton.
Yes.
President Kane.
Yes.
8 members.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So 2024-156, add handicap parking at 3 Grace Road. There's a positive recommendation out of committee.
Positive recommendation made by Councilor Lang, seconded by Councilor DeBona. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Ash.
Yes.
Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor Devine. Counselor DeBona.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor Liang.
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy.
Yes.
Counselor Minton.
Yes.
President Kane.
Yes.
8 members.
And 2024-143, add no parking on the odd side of Chubbuck Street from Washington Street to 60 feet south of Washington Street. Positive recommendation out of committee.
Positive recommendation, motion to approve made by Councilor Lang, seconded by Councilor McCarthy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Ash.
Yes.
Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor Devine. Counselor DeBona.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor Liang.
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy.
Yes.
Counselor Minton.
Yes.
President Kane.
Yes.
8 members.
2024-144, add no parking on the even side of Commonwealth Ave from Southern Artery to 62 feet east of Southern Artery. Positive recommendation out of committee.
Positive recommendation, motion to approve made by Councilor Lang, seconded by Councilor McCarthy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Ash.
Yes.
Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor Devine. Counselor DeBona.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor Liang.
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy.
Yes.
Counselor Minton.
Yes.
President Kane.
Yes.
8 members.
2024-145, add 2 stop signs in Silver Street at Moore Street, creating a 3-way stop. Positive recommendation out of committee.
Positive recommendation on committee made, motion to approve made by Councilor Lang, seconded by Councilor McCarthy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Ash.
Yes.
Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor Devine. Counselor DeBona.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor Liang.
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy.
Yes.
Counselor Minton.
Yes.
President Kane.
Yes.
8 members.
Okay, 2024-146, add handicap parking at 47 Elliott Ave. Positive recommendation out of committee.
Positive recommendation, motion to approve made by Councilor Liang and seconded by Councilor McCarthy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Ash.
Yes.
Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor Devine. Counselor DeBona.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor Liang.
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy.
Yes.
Counselor Minton.
Yes.
President Kane.
Yes.
8 members.
All right, and last one, 2024-147, add 15-minute parking on Billings Road from Hancock Street to 65 feet northeast of Hancock Street. Positive recommendation out of committee.
Positive recommendation, a motion to approve made by Councilor Lang, seconded by Councilor McCarthy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Ash. Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor Devine. Counselor DeBona.
Yes.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor Liang.
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy.
Yes.
Counselor Minton.
Yes.
President Kane.
Yes.
8 members.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks.
Petitions of, presentation of petitions, memorials, and remonstrance. It's with sadness that we announce the passing of Loretta Keenan, who is the mother of Mayor Thomas Koch's wife, Christine, and mother of Senator John Keenan, who passed away suddenly and peacefully December 7th at the age of 90, surrounded by her loving family. She was a beloved wife of 57 years to the late Philip Keenan. She was the loving mother of Chief Retired Paul Keenan of the Quincy Police Department, and his wife Karen of Hanover, Matthew Keenan from the Quincy Fire Department, and his wife Sandy of Hanover. Mrs. Koch, as I said, and her husband Mayor Koch of Quincy, Senator John Keenan and his wife Jean of Quincy, Joan Nachitello and her husband Marvin of Billerica, James Keenan of Quincy, and Catherine Maloney and her husband Michael of Quincy. Loretta was the beloved daughter of the late Owen Donovan and Anna Rooney Donovan, the youngest of 8 children. She was the dear sister of the late Angela Donovan, Elizabeth Kraft, William Donovan, James Donovan, Virginia Keenan, Frances Bunny, Otto Wichitz, and Sister Mary Donovan. Loretta was the devoted and loving Nana to 20 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren, and beloved aunt to many nieces, nephews, great-nieces, and great-nephews. Born in Boston, Loretta was raised in Roslindale, graduating from Roslindale High School. After high school, she worked for New England Telephone. In 1956, she married her husband Phil, living as a couple in Brighton, then Franklin, and settling in the Wollaston neighborhood of Quincy, where they raised their 7 children. Loretta worked as a sales clerk at Filene's in Boston, and then as a receptionist at CNA Insurance in Quincy. She was a Cub Scout Pac 14 den mother and was active in St. Anne's Parish as a CCD teacher, member of the Mary Ann's, and in the Church Bowling League. On behalf of the City Council, we pass our love and support to the Keenan family, who I'm sure are dealing with sadness at this time. Thank you. President recognizes Councilor Campbell.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge another friend of the city, Michael Martin. He passed away on December 8th. He is one of 5 Martin brothers. His brother Harvey is actually one of the inspectors here in the city, and actually the only smart one actually went to Quincy High School. The rest went to North. But he is a great friend of the city. He was a graduate of UMass Amherst and worked at Republic Plumbing Supply for the past umpteen years, and until his retirement. He had remembered for his warm personality, humor, and love of golf. And as I said, the Martin brothers are second to none, really special guys and really special to the city. So just wanted to send along our condolences from the council on behalf of for the Martin family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Campbell. President recognizes Councilor DeBona.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to say, as we close out this year on the City Council, a full year has elapsed, and I just want to say thank you to President Kane for this past year of being the president of the City Council, with a lot of stuff going on in the city. And I just want to say you've done a great job with holding ground with this entire City Council as well as the public. So just want to say thank you getting through your first year here. So
thank you.
Just wanted to.
We don't give bonuses, you know.
We should put that into the next budget.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilor
Thank you.
DeBona. I appreciate it. Okay, motions, orders, and resolutions. Scheduling of committee meetings and public hearings. Oh, sorry. President recognizes Councilor McCarthy.
But this hasn't made the obituaries yet, but I don't want to forget this, because I know we won't reconvene until after Christmas, after the new year. But the city of President's lost another good person, too young to cancer, Paul Murphy, Quincy Police. His wife Tara, leaves his wife Tara, his children Sarah, Megan, and Matthew. Paul had cancer for a long time. His brother Chris is on Quincy Fire. He served as the president of the Quincy Police Mutual Aid Association, as treasurer of the Quincy Police Patrolmen's Association, and he was very, very passionate in the mental health arena. So prayers and thoughts go out to the Murphy family. Sad. He fought a good fight. Cancer seems to be in abundance these days, popping up left and right, but just want to make sure everybody recognizes the Murphy family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McCarthy. Okay, so we are done for this calendar year. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is Monday, January 6th at 6:30 p.m. We have a city council meeting. Want to wish everyone here Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Merry Kwanzaa to those that celebrate, and I hope everyone has a happy holidays with their family and friends. I will entertain a motion to adjourn made by Councilor Yang. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Have a good evening.